Hello everyone. Today we are going to start the first block called Approaching Sociological Theory, and the unit in it it's called Social Theory and its Context. तो हम social theory कैसे बनती है कोई भी सोशियोलॉजिकल थ्योरी बनने के पीछे का क्या कॉन्टेक्स्ट है इसके बारे में इस यूनिट में हम बात करेंगे. सो लेट्स बिगिन. इंट्रोडक्शन. Sociological theories are embedded in a particular social context and are deeply influenced by them. Each sociological thinker or theorist has to respond to the social situation in which he or she exists and to try and make sense of the enveloping culture. अच्छा, एक कल्चर बन रहा है, सोसाइटी में चीजें ऐसे हो रही है. जैसे ऑगस्ट कॉम्ट ने क्यों सोसाइटी को पढ़ना चालू किया था? इफ यू रिमेम्बर, हमने जब इमर्जिंग सोशियोलॉजी के चैप्टर में पढ़ा था कि ऑगस्ट कॉम्ट बोल रहे थे कि उन्होंने सोसाइटी का देखा कि अच्छा, जैसे फिजिक्स है, जैसे दूसरे दूसरे साइंस, नेचुरल साइंसेस है, उसको पढ़ा जा सकता है, तो सोसाइटी को भी पढ़ने का एक तरीका तो है. एंड वो सब क्यों आया? बिकॉज उनके पास कॉन्टेक्स्ट था रेनेसॉ का. सो दैट इज व्हाट इट्स दिस इज टॉकिंग अबाउट. Um, that is to say that sociological theory is the sociologist's response to the context in which he lives and works. This truism will become increasingly apparent as you study the unit. तो ये कैसे हो रहा है ये हम यूनिट में फिगर आउट करेंगे. However, it needs to be pointed out that there is an inner context and an outer context. The interplay between these two interrelated arenas of living creates sociological theory. एक तो inner context है जो mindset theorist का है, ये वो क्या सोच रहे हैं, वो क्या पर्सपेक्टिव लेके जा रहे हैं, एंड देन फिर बाहर क्या हो रहा है, बाहर की दुनिया में क्या पर्सपेक्टिव चल रहा है. द आउटर कॉन्टेक्स्ट इज द ओवरऑल एनवायरमेंट, सोशल एंड फिजिकल, दैट द सोसाइटी इज एम्बेडेड इन. However, this is not to say that similar contexts cannot or do not produce competing theories. Social theory and its development thus takes place in a particular social and psychological setting. We now give a description of the overall social context in which sociological theory developed. As is well known, sociology developed in the West, and it was in the 20th century that it percolated to India. ये हमने emerging sociology के chapters में ये सारी चीजें पढ़ी हुई है. The French Revolution in 1789 created such an urgent context that it became an important element to create a need for sociological theorizing. फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन आया, लिबर्टी, डेमोक्रेसी, फ्रेटर्निटी, इन सब की सारी बात होने लगी, तो पीपल स्टार्टेड रियलाइजिंग कि हमें इन सब चीजों को जब एक पॉलिटिकल एंगल से देखा जा सकता है, तो इसको एक सोशल एंगल से भी देखने की जरूरत है. These changes were beneficial in the main, but these were also problematic. One of these problems was the law and order maintenance in France, because people are taking over, democracy is coming. तो कैसे आएगी, क्यों आएगी? तो उसमें law and order situation तो of course develop हो ही गया. Some thinkers even advocated that law and order in France after the revolution was worse than what existed in the medieval ages. Not surprisingly, the major theorists like Comte and Durkheim were deeply concerned with law and order. Apart from the revolution in France, we find another source of simulation to the thinkers. This was the industrial revolution. जब मशीनें आने लगी, फैक्ट्रीज बनने लगी, लोगों का ऑक्यूपेशन को, मनी को लेकर, लेबर को लेकर, ये सारी चीजों के साथ रिलेशंस बदलने लगे, एंड ये सब सारे रिलेशंस बदलने लगे, तो फर्स्ट पीपल हु वुड लुक एट इट एंड थियोराइज वुड बी द सोशियोलॉजिस्ट. The problem with this situation was that social inequality began to become extremely disparate, and while the factory owners or capitalists earned large profits, the workers got painfully low wages. इसमें हमें मार्क्स की गंध आ रही है ना? Marx was the one who said कि there's a bourgeois class and there's a proletariat class, and bourgeois class exploits proletariat का working work, and so a lot of the sociological theories of alienation, commodification of labor, commodification of thoughts, ये सारी जो चीजें हैं ये यहाँ से आ रही है. The fact of low wages led to the creation of trade unions and also to movements trying to overthrow the capitalist system itself. Thus, the Industrial Revolution, the related capitalist structure, and the reaction against them were enormous, and these affected social thinkers greatly. And we find that Marx, Weber, and Durkheim were preoccupied with the problematics they unleashed, because society में ये सारी चीजें चल रही थी, इसीलिए ये सारे thinkers आए और उन्होंने अपने अपने अलग thought process आगे रखे. Prominence of socialism. Another series of factors which created a great deal of reaction was the coming into prominence of socialism. This was the direct critique of capitalism. तो हम socialism का मैं थोड़ा सा context दे देती हूँ. Capitalism हम जब बोलते हैं तो it's a society which is ruled by capital. Capital is the money, right? किसी भी चीज का बिजनेस जैसे हम शुरू करते हैं तो उसके पहले बोलते हैं ना कि कैपिटल चाहिए. कैपिटल इज व्हाट? द मनी, ओनरशिप ऑफ लैंड, ओनरशिप ऑफ रिसोर्सेज, ये सारी चीजें. व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट सोशलिज्म, सोशलिज्म एडवोकेट्स अ काइंड ऑफ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ रिसोर्सेज, जहां पे सोसाइटी इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर एवरीथिंग. सो इट्स नॉट जस्ट वन पर्टिकुलर पर्सन. जैसे कैपिटलिस्ट होते हैं, बुर्जुआ होते हैं कैपिटलिज्म में, यहाँ पे कोई एक पर्सन नहीं होता है. सोसाइटी रिस्पॉन्सिबल होती है फॉर द कंट्रोल एंड प्रोडक्शन ऑफ रिसोर्सेज. द मेन फिगर हु सपोर्टेड socialism among the sociologists was of course Marx, who is not only an effective thinker but also a political activist. In his political activism, he was different from the armchair social theorists who were against capitalism. That is, they wanted to improve and streamline the capitalist system defect, like the creation of alienation among factory workers. एंड या ऑफ कोर्स ये चार्ली चैपलिन की मॉडर्न टाइम्स करके एक मूवी है, यू शुड डेफिनेटली सी. इट्स अ वेरी फनी एंड सच अ ब्यूटीफुल क्रिटिक ऑफ कैपिटलिज्म कि 2 मिनट में हमें ये पूरा समझ आ जाता है कि व्हाई कैपिटलिज्म डजंट वर्क फॉर एवरीबॉडी. दे डिड नॉट फील दैट सोशलिज्म वाज इन एनी वे एन आंसर और सॉल्यूशन टू द ills of capitalism. It has been pointed out that the Marx socialism was often seen as a counterpoint from which to develop different theories. Now, due to the industrial revolution, there were great movements of people from rural to urban locals, है ना, बिकॉज फैक्ट्रीज में प्रोडक्शन के लिए लेबर चाहिए. These phenomena of migrations, partly due to the opening of jobs in urban areas, yet this meant adjusting to the new lifestyle urban areas, also saw negative factors such as pollution, overcrowding. जैसे Britain, actually one of the reasons why one of the reasons why British came to India was also because of industrialization. They realized कि यहाँ पे जगह नहीं है, यहाँ पे resources नहीं है, इन सबको ढूंढने के लिए बाहर निकलना पड़ेगा. And then of course it did affect religion and everything that society engulfs in it. It was not surprising that early sociologists wanted to emulate the physical and biological sciences, जो मैंने जब अभी थोड़ी देर पहले बोल रही थी. Thus, for example, the counter-enlightenment ideologues like de Bonald wanted to return to medieval times where they felt life and living was far more harmonious than the Enlightenment. Such writers were against any progressive ideology and felt that both the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution were forces that destroyed peace, harmonies, law and order. Of course, कोई भी चेंज आता है तो उसमें कुछ लोग होते हैं who embrace the change, who say कि अच्छा this could be a new thing and we should look at it. And then there are also critics जो उनको लगता है कि नहीं पहले वाला system better था because it worked for them. So the last line. In other words, de Bonald was against anything that disturbed patriarchy and monarchy in France. Individual versus collectivity. Thus, while the thinkers of the Enlightenment emphasized the person, individual, the reaction of those who opposed these thinkers wanted to emphasize the collectivity. Thus, these thinkers wanted to point out that there was more to existence than the individual, and this was society itself. Society was viewed as one long flow from past to present and onward the future. So, जब enlightenment हुआ, उसमें person में आ गई थी बात, फिर then again collectivity में बात आने लगी, because people started realizing कि society एक चीज है जिसको भी पढ़ना बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है. Thus, the view of institutions was wholly uncritical. Therefore, while change was leading forward to a new world, the conservative reaction supported hierarchical structures. वो लोग चर्च में believe कर रहे हैं, monarchy में believe कर रहे हैं, patriarchy में believe कर रहे हैं, जो सारे structures new world, progressive world में काम नहीं कर रहे थे. Let us now turn briefly to some of the sociologists of the Enlightenment. Comte and the Enlightenment. Comte's pioneering work in sociology comprised partly an analysis and reaction to the Enlightenment and the French Revolution. Comte's positive philosophy was aimed at what he felt to be a counter to that he considered to be the ill effects of Enlightenment. His own approach was influenced by various counter-revolutionary thinkers such as de Bonald. Comte was, however, different from these counter-revolutionaries, and he ruled out a regression to the medieval times because science has advanced too much to make that possible. On the other hand, he developed an excellent theoretical system, much better than anyone else at that time. So basically, Comte ऐसा बोल रहे हैं कि अच्छा ठीक है, he believed कि counter revolution के जो काउंटर रेवोल्यूशनरीज है उनका कुछ पॉइंट है, बट ही से कि साइंस इतना बढ़ गया कि अब ये आर्ग्यूमेंट का कुछ मतलब रहा नहीं है. Thus, Comte's sociology of social physics, जिसका मैं स्टार्टिंग में allude कर रही थी, or what he called sociology was developed as a counter to the social anarchy unleashed in France after the revolution. So सब जगह पे anarchy है, समझ नहीं आ रही सोसाइटी, तो समझने के लिए फिर उन्होंने social physics, sociology, ये सारे terms introduce किए. He wanted to build sociology after the rigorous approach of science, especially physics. Comte's was an evolutionary theory which comprised a law which has 3 ascending steps or stages which have to claim to universality, that is, they apply to all societies. First है theological stage in which supernatural powers, भगवान पे ये सारी मतलब फोर्सेस बिगर देन ह्यूमन, इस पे बिलीव होता था. फिर दूसरा था मेटाफिजिकल फेज, जिसमें नेचर पर बहुत ज्यादा मैन एंड सोसाइटी को एक्सप्लेन करने का जिम्मा डाल दिया गया. एंड देन द पॉजिटिविस्टिक स्टेज जिसमें साइंस सारी चीजें एक्सप्लेन करने लगा था. Comte's position is that it is intellectual confusion that leads to social anarchy. According to him, the positivistic stage dominates only when even the traces of theological and metaphysical stages have been finally reduced. तो वो बोलते हैं कि सोसाइटी ऐसे स्टेजेस से जाती है, सबसे पहले भगवान पे भरोसा करती है, फिर नेचर पे भरोसा करती है, फाइनली साइंस आता है. Since Comte's position was evolutionary, it is clear that he did not believe in violent types of revolution. We can mention some other aspects of his work, and this includes his observation on social structure and social change. Comte stressed the interrelatedness of all the components of a society. He also believed that consensus in society was a major requirement. Further, he did not believe in the exploitative view of capitalism. Comte further recommended that there was a need for theorizing and also for research. Finally, Comte, as a sociologist, believed that sociology could ultimately emerge as a dominant force due to its excellence in understanding social processes. Of course, उन्होंने अगर लाया है तो he believes in it, right? Durkheim and the Enlightenment. Durkheim as a sociologist who took on the mantle from Comte, who was his predecessor. तो हम ऐसे समझते हैं, एक्चुअली जब इमर्जेंस ऑफ सोशियोलॉजी के चैप्टर में आप पढ़ते हैं तो हम सबसे पहले ऑगस्ट कॉम्ट को पढ़ते हैं. अच्छा, देयर इज आल्सो प्रोनाउंसिएशन का थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. सम पीपल से कॉम्टे, सम पीपल से कॉम्ट. इट्स अ फ्रेंच नेम, सो से एज यू विल. देन उसके बाद डर्काइम आते हैं. तो डर्काइम बिलीव की अनलाइक कॉम्ट दैट द एनलाइटनमेंट वाज नॉट ऑल नेगेटिव बट इन फैक्ट डिड हैव सम पॉजिटिव पोजीशन, did have some positive aspects such as emphasis on scientific methods. Durkheim was against anarchy and social chaos, and large portions of his work dealt with studies of social order, which he felt was the need of the hour. Durkheim was a prolific writer and wrote many classical works in sociology. Thus, in the rules of sociological method, he stressed that sociology is the study of social facts. These social facts are such that they are external to and coercive of individuals in society. This emphasis of study had a great influence on other sociologists. He demonstrated the usefulness of this approach in his study of suicide, in which he showed how social forces have an impact on the individual and their actions within society. His emphasis, however, was not on the individual but social causes behind it. जब हम डर्काइम पढ़ते हैं तब हम रियलाइज करते हैं कि वो हमेशा एक पॉजिटिविस्टिक स्ट्रक्चर की बात ज्यादा करते हैं. He never really talks about one particular individual because वो सोसाइटी पर ज्यादा ध्यान देने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. According to Durkheim, it was the variations within the social facts which explain different rates of society. Even something as personal as suicide, वो बोलते कि no, it's not personal. It has sociological reasons behind it. And then he, connects different. Suicide is actually a very important study of Durkheim. Then उसका again दूसरा यहाँ पे example दिया गया है. Yeah, so just continuing that example, Marxian ideology. Let us now turn to sociology in Germany in the same span of time. In Germany, there was since the beginning a distinction between Marx and Weber and other sociologists. Thus, Karl Marx was himself deeply influenced by Hegel, but was to later contradict him. Hegel actually Marx के गुरु बोले जाते हैं. Hegel was the person जिसने एक idea दिया था about dialectic idealism. Yeah, it's called dialectic idealism. I was correct. So what it means कि कोई भी idea है, there's a contradictory to that idea. So there's a thesis, there's antithesis, and then that leads to synthesis. So you basically you're arguing with two ideas, and then उसके बीच में जो आता है वो तुम्हारा main idea होता है. Marx, and he says कि this is the basis of entire universe. This is the basis of human being. This is the basis of anything that happens in the society. But Marx took that dialectic idea from him and he applied it to materialism. He said कि नहीं, ideas पे दुनिया नहीं चलती, material resources पे दुनिया चल रही. So he took that idea and he said कि अच्छा, there's a capitalist and there's a bourgeois. ये दोनों, there's a thesis, that there's an antithesis, and इन दोनों के बीच का जो conflict है वो society को चला रहा है, which is inherently materialistic. तो ये मार्क्स का आइडिया था. And why I just took this detour to explain why Hegel, because Hegel is written here. Yeah, so further Hegel's idealism, right? It's like right here and I did not see. Yeah, ये जो मैंने पूरा थ्योरी समझाया यही है. एंड सो मार्क्स का डायलेक्टिक मटेरियलिज्म के बारे में यहाँ पे बहुत ज्यादा बात हो रही है. एंड मार्क्स ने फिर यहाँ पे कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज ऑफ डायलेक्टिक मटेरियलिज्म बोले. उन्होंने बोला कि क्लास का पोलराइजेशन हो जाता है, कोई मिडिल क्लास नहीं होता है. देयर इज समवन हु इज ऑलवेज गोइंग टू कंट्रोल द रिसोर्सेज एंड समवन हु इज ऑलवेज गोइंग टू गेट एक्सप्लॉइटेड बिकॉज ऑफ द कंट्रोल ऑफ रिसोर्सेज. एंड इन दोनों के बीच में हैव्स एंड हैव नॉट्स के बीच में ही एक्सप्लॉइटेशन चलता रहता है. एंड इट लीड्स टू सो मच ऑफ एक्सप्लॉइटेशन कि इस सोसाइटी को खत्म ही करना इसका सोल्यूशन है, इसमें हम इम्प्रूव नहीं कर सकते. दैट्स व्हाई रेवोल्यूशन की जरूरत है. दैट्स व्हाट मार्क्स इज सेइंग. Weberian ideology. We can now turn to another German sociologist, that of Max Weber. It has often been observed that Max Weber developed his ideas and theories keeping Marxian thought as a counterpoint or point of reference, yeah, departure to begin his theorizing. Weber is again a German sociologist, and वो बोलते हैं उन्होंने थ्योरी मार्क्स की थ्योरीज को समझा, बट उन्होंने बोला कि इकोनॉमिक डिटर्मिनिज्म कि सिर्फ पैसा ही सारी चीजें चल जाती है, ऐसा नहीं है, सोशल प्रोसेसेस में दूसरी चीजें भी आ जाती हैं. We find that in the case of Max Weber, the sequence is held to be the other way around. That it is the ideas that determine what is done with the economy. तो वो जो इकोनॉमी है वो आइडियाज को लेकर जाते हैं, जैसे मार्क्स बोल रहे थे, ये वेबर बोलते हैं कि नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है, आइडियाज आते हैं उससे फिर इकोनॉमी डिटरमाइन होती है. वेबर वाज स्पेशली कंसर्न विद द इफेक्ट्स ऑफ रिलीजियस आइडियाज ऑन इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट. उन्होंने एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट स्टडी की है, प्रोटेस्टेंट एथिक एंड द स्पिरिट ऑफ कैपिटलिज्म, एंड इट्स अ वेरी ब्यूटीफुल स्टडी, यू शुड डेफिनेटली रीड इट. इट्स व्हाट्स इट्स ट्राइंग टू से इज कि रिलीजन में ऐसे नॉर्म्स है, रिलीजन में ऐसे बिलीव्स हैं जिसके चक्कर में कैपिटलिज्म आया. He also commenting on Hinduism. He actually takes a lot of religion and he tries to make sense of the world using these things. Okay, sorry. Weber also studied other religions than Protestantism, including Hinduism, of which he felt that its lower rate of economic development was due to a constricting segmentation of society into large number of castes or jati. This meant that once again the landlord, a person with land holdings, began to exploit the lower caste with unfair sharing of the produce if it was sharecropping, and many related demands if it was possible to exploit them further. This, however, does not bear great depth because sociologists in the 50s conducted studies and came to conclusion that Hinduism does not create economic impediments and caste adapts to a new economic challenge in a positive manner. Weber was interested in how the process of rationalization led to economic development and to the creation and existence of large bureaucracies and other social institutions. So yeah, वो उन्होंने क्या-क्या study की है ये लिखा हुआ है. Ultimately, Weber's theories proved more acceptable than those of Marx, especially the political and economic applications. They were liberal in some ways and conservative in others. And unlike Marx, he did not espouse total radicalism. Rather, he said कि there are problems जिसका हमें solution निकालने का जरूरत है. British sociologist. British sociologists tended to study the individual and his role in societal existence and development. Thus, here sociology was built around the factors of political economy, social reform, and that of the social evolutionary theory. As regards political economy, it was a theory of capitalism which had been discussed by Adam Smith, who spoke of an invisible hand of market. So, ये invisible hand of market Adam Smith का एक बहुत important theory है. ये बोलता है कि market was over and above the individual and regulated his behavior. Thus, the market forces were viewed as a source of social order and cohesion. तो market को बहुत ज़्यादा importance दे रहे हैं. Following this perspective, the sociologist was not involved in criticizing market forces on society at large. Rather, his job was to study societies. तो आप ऐसे मत बोलो कि market, हमेशा बुरा होता है. Rather, study the society the way market is influencing. At this point of time, British sociologists collected field-based data and then combined these findings into a collective picture. The emphasis was on statistical presentation with little or no theorizing. However, the need for theorizing was clearly felt by many sociologists. The statistically oriented sociologists were also extremely close to the government and therefore failed to see any flaw in the overall political and economic system. Now, there was another basic criteria in British sociology, and this was the concern for reforming individuals. So, basically, वो थोड़ा context बताने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि वहाँ पे sociologists they were hands in glove with the government, तो उनको society में कुछ problem दिख नहीं रही थी. And then Spencer came in, and Spencer started theorizing a little. Spencer's evolutionism. Spencer was a social Darwinist and was of the opinion that society would progress by itself and this evolution should not be interfered with. Spencer went to the extent of comparing social institutions with plants and animals. Thus, he felt that social institutions would progressively adapt to the environment by themselves without any definite impetus. Spencer took Darwin's premise of survival of the fittest, where those people who could adapt to the social and natural environment would live. Very brutal theory, but what it's trying to say is कि जैसे survival of the fittest लोगों में भी होना चाहिए. That's what Spencer is talking about. The evolutionary focus of Spencer is at least twofold. In the first end, the Spencer speaks of the size factor in social evolution. Thus, as the size of the society increases, so do the various infrastructural and institution need and requirements. Differentiation and specialization begin to manifest in every sphere, and the fact is that both the size and the complexity of a town is very different from a metropolitan. According to Spencer, the size of the society increases by various groups and amalgamating and bonding to form larger societies. Thus, Spencer viewed increase in size from that of a simple community to that which is complex or compound. Another evolutionary factor was मिलिटेंट से इंडस्ट्रियल सोसाइटीज होने लगी थी. पहले जब बहुत ज्यादा वायलेंट एटीट्यूड था, उससे हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं. The early ideas of sociologists were very important indications of how the context creates an impact of the mind of sociologist. है ना, हमने यहाँ पे 3 लोगों के बारे में पढ़े. पहले हमने फ्रेंच सोशियोलॉजिस्ट पढ़े, फिर जर्मन पढ़े, फिर ब्रिटिश पढ़े. However, it would be clear to you by now that the context of theory is essentially society and culture at a particular time and place. It can then be said that social theory is in itself a reflection of the social environment at the time it was developed. Also put its what is it, stamp on the theory. Therefore each era, each age responds with. हाँ, तो बेसिकली यही लिखा हुआ है कि हर एरा, हर एज सोसाइटी को कैसे इफेक्ट कर रहा है, सोशल थ्योरी को कैसे इफेक्ट कर रहा है, वो हमने इस चैप्टर में पढ़ा. And with that we finish this unit. I hope to see you all in the next class. Bye bye.